as we talk about being stoic, maybe being zen in your approach to life, there's this sense that we're supposed to not be angry about things, that you're supposed to just take life in stride and be calm and be patient and be loving and understanding of all people and all perspectives, and really just kind of be that model example of what a good attitude looks like all the time. And yet, sometimes life just gets to you. You get frustrated. You start to feel indignant. And there's a temptation to feel like it's necessary to suppress those feelings of frustration or anger and be better than that. But that's sort of like damming up water. At some point, the dam's going to break. So you're probably better off saying, okay, let me be aware of my feelings. Let me understand why it is I feel the way I feel. Let me acknowledge to myself that it's okay to feel that way, because it's a valid feeling. And quite often when we're frustrated about something, it's for a valid reason. It's not just arbitrary. Does that mean that other people's value judgments are wrong, or their feelings are wrong, or their motives are evil? Not necessarily. Sometimes people are on a path trying to do what they feel is right for themselves, and that results in us feeling like we aren't seen, or feeling like we aren't respected. So it doesn't necessarily mean that someone is evil because they're doing something which we feel is harmful. It's possible for people to do harm without intending to. Sometimes people do harm because that's just in their nature. They don't even have any capacity to be different. It's just in their nature to be kind of toxic. And I guess a lot of people are sort of like animals in that regard, in the sense that they're not getting up every day saying, you know, I want to be evil. It's just they get up every day and they're bound by a certain nature that they can't avoid. And then it winds up maybe harming people inadvertently. So we should forgive. But I think it's important for us to also understand that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to have all the different emotions that you have. All of those things exist for a reason. But you can let things flow around you and flow through you instead of making them something that just festers and exists for a very long time inside you. There's a quote I have always liked in Star Trek. Captain Picard says that hate is like old leather. At some point it becomes so comfortable that people can't imagine not wearing it. And that's true. When you allow anger to become something where it's not just an angry feeling that you have for a very short time and then you go back to your baseline, it's something that you hang on to and you nurse it and you keep it alive, and you're angry hour after hour, day after day, month after month. And after a while, you realize you've pretty much just been angry your whole life. And then you maybe become that toxic person that you always hated, because people who are hurting tend to be the ones who hurt others. So be angry, embrace anger, embrace the dark side. Just don't stay there. Just like lightning strikes the lightning rod, but then the lightning flows through the ground and it doesn't do damage because there was a venue for that electricity to dissipate. Sometimes when we try to force ourselves not to be angry, we just suppress something which is still there, and then we're even angrier. We just pretend we're not. It's best to not pretend that you're not angry when you're actually angry inside. Let yourself be angry, but how long do you have to be angry? Maybe you should be angry for 5 minutes while you think about it, and then go on with your life and say, all right, I was angry about something. So what? That's all right. But there is a lesson in there. Why do we feel pain? You put your hand in the fire, you feel your hand being singed, and, you think to yourself, I guess I should probably move my hand away from the fire. So sometimes we need to take action and say, I'm angry because I need to change my life. I'm angry and I feel pain because I'm putting myself in a position where I'm allowing others, whether they intend to or not, to do me harm with their actions or with their ways of looking at life. If you're surrounding yourself with people who make you feel like you are tempted to be self-limiting or you're tempted to be frustrated all the time, well then ask yourself if you're surrounding yourself with the right kind of people. Because good trees are the ones that bear good fruit. And sometimes we try to do mental gymnastics to say, why is it that people are not bearing good fruit in our lives? Our relationships aren't working out, and we make excuses for why this is, but sometimes the simple explanation is just the people we're surrounding ourselves with have belief systems which are not helpful to us. And so we shouldn't try to change them per se. We shouldn't be saying, well, how do we, make other people fit our narrative? That's not the right attitude. But we should say, if people aren't the sort of people that we are inspired by, if they're not helping us to be the best version of ourselves, well, then we probably should let them go and seek the light. Because, well, as scripture said, if your eye offends you, pluck it out. So don't allow your life to be filled with things that make you feel angry, make you feel negative, make you feel like you have to process all of those emotions. I was thinking about friction in the experiences we have in life, and to use a gaming example, I think about how there's some games that are hard. They're not hard games necessarily if you wanted to spend a lot of time on them. What's hard about them is they're hard to get into, and maybe there's mechanics you need to learn, whatever it is, they're just not a frictionless experience. So they're cool, but they wind up in my Steam library waiting for one day. And then there's the other games that I actually enjoy playing more, and they're frictionless. It's super easy for me just to hit play, and next thing you know, I'm enjoying the game. Those frictionless experiences tend to win out over maybe good experiences that are too complicated, or there's just something about the UI or something about the way the game is designed that makes me feel like it's a production to get myself set up in it, So life is like that. There's things that add friction into our day. And that friction manifests itself in the form of anger or bitterness or a temptation to be a gossiper or any number of other kind of negative traits. Like, for example, I always get up in the morning and I go to work. I like to walk to work because I can. It's not very far. I could walk for 25 minutes or so and take the long way, which is underneath the freeway. I can walk under the underpass and around, and I don't really have to cross any traffic, and it's pretty calm, peaceful sort of a deal. Or I could go the short way, and the short way is, maybe 15 minutes, but it's gonna make me cross over the freeway and over a few busy roads, and then I'm a little bit frustrated because I gotta look at the various drivers to make sure that they see me if they're turning and they're not going to run me over or things like that. Not a big deal. It's just I'd rather walk that extra 10-minute route that's going to be a little bit peaceful to me versus the short route that's going to make me feel a little bit irritated maybe, or a little bit disturbed. My peace is disturbed. So, I just use that as a simple little example. Is there something in life you could do that will replace a experience that adds friction to your day with something that removes some friction? Now, a little bit of friction here and there is necessary and healthy even. But if you can eliminate the temptation to be frustrated, then why wouldn't you do that? Sometimes life is simpler when we just stop trying to make things that aren't meant to work fit our life. I played Albion Online for a while, and I'm always going to have a soft spot for that game because I like a lot about that MMO. But you know what the deal is with Albion Online? It's a very toxic game. It's just designed to be like that because it's a full loot PvP MMO with no quests and really nothing to do other than fight other players for resources. So the game plays like some kind of a gang violence simulator, and it gets frustrating. So you either feel like there's nothing for you to do in the game because everything's gated behind dangerous full loot zones, or you go out into the full loot zones and maybe you find out that if you're not part of a good guild, you're not going to have a good chance to get any good loot, or you find that, you head out on your own and get yourself into some trouble, and then you have this negative emotional experience, and it's just a game. But it makes you feel like you're in a bad mood when you're supposed to be enjoying yourself, So there's this dichotomy of thinking the game is really cool, but then having kind of negative experiences in the game. And so I thought to myself, what's the best way to go here? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, a game is supposed to be fun, right? So why am I trying to force this game to be a good fit for me when it just frustrates me? So thinking about it in those terms, then I look at other games I could play that don't add any of that frustration or friction or any of that. So if you can play the game that doesn't make you feel like you're tempted to rage quit, then maybe that's the one, just a thought. So try to eliminate things that tempt you to be maybe not in the frame of mind that you want to be in. Focus on things that encourage you to be the right kind of person. Focus on things which take you out of the sphere of influence of people who aren't the right kind of people, who are going to probably push you in a direction that you don't want to go. And then, of course, a little bit of self-constraint is not a terrible thing to have the ability to not say everything that comes to mind and to keep things to yourself. And I would say for that reason, I tend to believe in having a small social circle, because when you spend more time alone, then you can work through all of those different things a lot easier. Whereas when you're surrounded with a lot of other people, it can be hard to process your feelings without winding up in a situation where maybe you've said something that is regrettable or not respectful or not kind or not patient. Sometimes it's nice to just take some time by yourself to reflect and unpack everything and get to a place where you can level set with yourself, work through frustration if you have any, and then come out with a refreshed attitude that you're willing to understand that whether it is clear to you or not, the universe, as always, is unfolding as it should. Good luck. Strive to be happy. Be at peace with all. Do no harm, and do as you will. Best of luck on your adventure. Till next time. Thanks so much for watching.